Hi guys, Righteous Rayma here, author of Gaslit, Escaping the Narcissist Pit. I'm going to do a video today, you all, about something that I put in my book. And I'm actually going to try to qualify something I put in my book. In my book, I put a quote, and it said, when the past calls, do not answer. It has nothing new to say. It says, when your past calls, don't answer. It has nothing new to say. I'm going to qualify that statement, okay? I'm going to add a little disclaimer to that statement. There are instances where you can reopen a cold case. They say cold case files. There are some instances where you can revisit an ex. There are not many circumstances, there are not many situations, but here goes some instances where you can go back to an ex. So one instance where you can go back to an ex is if, as you keep living, let's say it's been 2 years or whatever since you broke up with that person. As you keep living, you start maturing. You start watching, videos like this where people give you wisdom. You go to a counselor. You go to get delivered of unclean spirits. You go get healed from traumatic experiences from childhood. And so as you grow, and as you grow, you realize that you made a decision. You made a permanent decision based off of limited information and revelation and development. Again, as you, let's say 2 years down the road since you broke up, you realize I was kind of a mess back then. I was a little mean back then. I didn't really understand love and relationships back then. I didn't understand people and men or women back then. I didn't understand stuff back then like I know now. So in those instances, you realize that based on your current level of revelation at that moment 2 years ago, you made the best decision that you could make with your current level of revelation and information, but you realize that it wasn't the best decision you should have made. You realize that what you thought you knew at that moment, you should have let this person go. You realize, I probably should have tried a little harder. I probably should have stayed in that situation, okay? So that's an instance where you can go back. Maturity. If you date somebody at 18, and let's say they're 26, or they're 36, that's double your age. You're a different person at 18 than you are at 36. You may realize, well, I guess it wasn't that bad. It just was because I was 18 and he was, older. I didn't understand that he had to work, 8 hours a day. I didn't understand that he couldn't party all hours of the night and he had to go to work the next day. I didn't understand that he had to spend time with his children and that he wasn't neglecting me. So sometimes, based on your current age, your biological age, your emotional age, you realize you made a hasty decision that was based on limited information and revelation. Okay, so in those instances, you can answer the phone and say, let me see, let's go for coffee, let's go for dinner, let me see if maybe he's not the bad guy I thought he was, because I thought he was like the devil back then, but now I'm like, he's really not that bad. Okay, and when you said looking back he really wasn't that bad, sometimes that comes with age and life experience. So at 18, you might only dated one guy your whole life, or no guys your whole life. So let's say you go from 18 to age 25. You say you dated 6 men in between 18 and 25. You see what's out there. You see the sample size. You see, the men out here is really trash. Like, my ex was amazing compared to what I see out here in these streets. My ex was amazing. So sometimes, if you don't have a large enough sample size, even when they do research, they have to have a large enough sample size for their conclusions and their research to be considered valid and reliable. They have to have a large enough sample size. So sometimes if you're really young or really inexperienced, you don't know enough about women or men to know that what you had was a good thing. I hear this all the time. I like to watch, catfish shows or scamfish, social catfish on Wednesdays on YouTube. And you see these women, they'll tell you, they're like in their late 50s, early 60s, late 60s, early 70s. And they're talking about how they were married to this really good man. He was good, but he just was boring. He worked all the time. He was so boring. He wasn't super romantic or whatever. And so they ended up leaving their husband, who was paying all the bills. They were stay-at-home wives, everything. And man, he gave them a what's not a curse, what's the word? He gave them money to do whatever they want to do with. And they just got bored with him. So they left them. Then they're divorced in their 50s or 60s. And now they're online getting scammed by Nigerian scammers for their life savings because they don't understand, like, you're going to get older someday. You had a good thing. Some of the stuff that he was doing, you could train him to do. You could went to therapy, counseling, but you broke up with a good man because he wasn't romantic. So now you're online getting scammed by people who seem romantic, but they're just online scamming you, using fake pictures and whatnot. And these women probably look back and be like, I shouldn't have left my ex. And some of them will say like, I had a really good man. I shouldn't have left my ex. I shouldn't have left my husband. So like I was saying, you all, sometimes you don't have a large enough sample size, a comparison sample size. And I'll speak for myself personally. You know, I've been single my whole life, 39 years old, never been married, never been engaged. So I've had opportunity to date a lot, you know. And the more I date, the older I get, the more I realize living in Memphis, it ain't much out here. I hate to insult the brothers in Memphis, but it ain't a whole lot of options in Memphis if you only date black men. I'm just being honest. I'm just being honest with you. And you see yourself questioning yourself and saying, well, that ex wasn't that bad. He really wasn't that bad. When you see what's out there, when you get a little older, you realize what's out there. And you're like, well, my ex, I mean, yeah, he didn't give me flowers on my birthday. Yeah, he didn't call me, ask me, have I eaten? But he really wasn't that bad. And I'm not saying it's what I did. I'm just saying example. Some stuff women would fall for. Like I said, as you get older, and I still look, you know, I'm 39, I still look good. I still look really good. So I can still pull them. I can still pull them young. I'm just being honest. But it's going to come a day when I'm going to start looking 40. I'm going to start looking 50. I'm going to start looking 60. And I'm not going to get all the DMs and the cat calls and the men, you know, want to ask me out, whatever, okay? And I know that, and I acknowledge that. And so, as you get older, you're to have not that many options in Memphis anyway. As you get older, you're going to realize that the options that you had this many options, right? Some great options, some good options, some bad options. As you get older, the great ones get married off, or they die off, or whatever. The good ones marry off, and then there's not much left with the bad ones. It's a few good ones and great ones left, but it's mostly a lot of bad ones. The older you get, because the good ones get married off, and the women realize they're worse, and they get picked off and married and everything. So the older you get, your sample size, your options rather, get fewer and fewer, and they're not as good options. That's why it's best to marry when you're younger. When you're 20, you can get as many options as you want. Less baggage, people got less trauma, less baby mamas, less divorces, less bitterness and cynicism when they're younger. When they're 20, they don't have no trauma. They're 20. They're in college. Everything's fresh. Everything. They just left mama's house and daddy's house, and they're in college, and they're hopeful and excited, and they're positive, and they're ready to love. But as they get older, they're not going to be as many good options. So sometimes you may be like, you know what? You hear about people saying that after my husband died, my high school sweetheart and me reconnected, and we've been in love ever since. Somebody who was always in the picture, who was always around, was not even considered because they thought they could find better. And sometimes they do find better. But sometimes, you all, we don't realize what's out there. And another thing about life experience is that as you get older, the stuff you judge them for, your exes for, you're going to do some of the same things they did. You're going to do the same things they did, some of the same things they did. You're going to end up maybe having an affair. You're going to end up maybe picking up an addiction. You're going to end up maybe being unemployed for a number of months. And the same things you fought to them for, to break up with them for, you're going to do the exact same thing. And you're going to demand and expect grace. So for some of you all, you're going to have enough life experiences to realize, I did the same thing I divorced my spouse for. I should have just went with them to therapy. I should have just went with them to counseling. I should have just shown grace. I should have just shown mercy. So in those instances, you all, it's okay to revisit. I ain't saying go back and just get remarried after one conversation. Revisit. See if some things maybe have changed. See if maybe you have matured and changed. Maybe you have grown. Maybe they have grown. Maybe you all realize the error of your ways when the relationship, first happened and when it first woke up. And maybe you all realize, you know what, based on what I see out there, based on the mistakes I've made, and I need grace for, based on my options being decreased, and me realizing that nobody's perfect, I may revisit this ex situation. Not saying you have to, not saying you got to. There's always more fish in the sea. But I'm saying that the fish in the sea may not be much better than your ex. So you may just want to go back to your ex. I don't know. Thank you all for watching. Please buy my book on Amazon. That still means it was the #1 Amazon bestseller when it was first released. This will be on all my books forever. Thank you for watching. Please share, subscribe to my channel. Bye.